Hello, my name is Diana Turney and I'm with the Small Business Development Centers. We have 19 across the state of Oregon, and it's our privilege to bring this information to you to help you as you work on your journey to become a licensed construction contractor. And so this class is intended to, now you have passed your CCB application process. Our pre-certification exam is behind you. We'd like to stop first of all and congratulate you. This is a huge step in your journey. We're very proud of you. And so we always like to clap and tell you great job, and we look forward to working with you further. What is our objective today? Our objective is to go through the process of helping you make the decisions you need to make going into business and help you avoid a lot of the mistakes that we see day in and day out in our centers as we serve you. And we specifically call this class Quick Start, because we think we can give you the information to make great choices as you start your business and get going and do what you do best, which is construction. And so one of the first things that we are providing is, this just tells you a little bit about contracting. So many of our contractors have indicated an interest in contracting, and so each month we get these magazines and we're happy to share them with you, and they are going to be chock full of information, and we urge you to read them as time permits. But contracting is certainly a way to grow your business after you get going. All right, we will have passed out in your packet some notes pages. I really urge you to have these, and while many of us try to just listen, you'll have a higher degree of retention if you'll take a moment and record your notes so that we move forward quickly, and this information is available to you when you have time to sit down and review it and go back again. The next thing is, let's ask a question. Why are you all doing this? Why are you all going through the process of becoming a licensed construction contractor? And I think it boils down to one thing and one thing only as I work with people. It's money. You believe you can earn a higher rate of income by becoming a licensed contractor. And our goal is joy and wealth. That is our mission and our values that we like to work with our customers. But we believe that you need to have the information to move forward with. Having said that, we have a form that we would like to ask for your help with in completing it. And it's this yellow form. And it is the intake form. When I've been in classrooms, I've had people go around and number off 1 through 10 and then start again. And the reason for that is I have all the ones stand up, and that is how many are going to make it in business. Nobody likes that number. Then I ask everyone to sit down, and I ask 2 through 10 to stand up. If you work with the Small Business Development Centers and you genuinely work on your business, that's how many will make it, 2 through 10. Wouldn't 90% be the number you'd like to know? I have a 90% chance of making it. Well, we think that's a great number too. And so we have this intake form that allows us to work with you and gives us some information, because we're required to have this. And so we will be pausing the camera here in just a moment and allowing your facilitator in your class to work with you. But as you go through here, please indicate your information, your email as it exists now. We ask for your telephone number, and if there's a second contact number, we appreciate the ability to be able to reach you. And then we also need to know your street address, your city, and then we request that you say yes. This allows us to work with you and share information in a non-private way. It's generically shared among all the businesses that we work with. And then we just need your signature and date. Since most of you are not in business at this point, we just have a few remaining questions that we ask you to do. We appreciate your help in filling out race, your ethnicity, your gender, and if you consider yourself a person with a disability. Then the last few questions are you a veteran? And if so, please indicate. And then if you have been referred by someone to our class, we really appreciate knowing the sources of our referrals, and if you would take a moment and check it. If you're not currently in business, then you would mark no on question 20, But if you have a name you think you want for your business, go ahead and write it in on box 21. You will be in construction, and so I would invite you to mark the construction box down here in 22, and you're done with this form. So at this point, I'd like to pause and allow you to complete this form because we would like to come and collect it in just a few minutes. Thank you so much.
I have a question.
Yes.
If I'm not from Portland, I don't see how I'm going to be getting in to see any of the counselors here. Does this form work for my SBDC in my own city?
That's a great question. Kathleen asked if she is not in this area, and we do have construction contractors that join us throughout the state, how can you receive help and not travel all the way to Portland? It could be hundreds and hundreds of miles. And the answer is yes. There are 19 small business development centers throughout the state of Oregon, and we would partner you up with someone that is near your home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have another question. Who gets this information I fill out? Does it go out to anybody?
No, this information is maintained in a confidential database that has very high-end encryption. And so the counselor who works with you and the center that works with you is able to view this information so they can reach you and they can work with you, and basically they know they have their permission to serve you. The other reason we ask for this form is, isn't it wonderful to know that you actually can receive a service at no charge? And that's what you receive. And one of the strengths of our program is the free coaching and counseling of very experienced professionals in business and construction. And so we just ask for this form so we can do our reporting. And that means we worked with 200 businesses this month, and we just fill in the total aggregate numbers. No one is identified in a confidential way that anyway releases your information. So we value your privacy. Thank you. All right, let's pause and allow you to complete that form. We'll return to our journey of filling out a little bit of paperwork, and this is essential as a contractor, but I assure you, you're almost done. The next form is our impact validation form, and this is how we're measured. And so throughout the small business development centers, they want to know that we're helping small business. Our name implies that, Small Business Development Center. And so we request your name, then we ask the center that you're working with, and if you're not sure, just ask us, and we'll also be pausing at the end of this explanation, so we'll answer any questions that you have. And the name of your business, if you know it at this time, and if you know the counselor you're working with. You may not. Again, that information may be provided at a later time. Then the impact. When do you anticipate going live into business? You aren't going to increase your sales to start with. We're getting you started. But the anticipated start date would go here, and the form goes on down a little bit, and we're keenly interested in how many jobs did we create as a result of working with you. Again, it's a measure of our success in helping small businesses get started, and so we like to know full-time and part-time. The next question that we have is perhaps retaining jobs. Some of you are going through this class, and you're becoming the responsible managing individual in the business, and you are retaining jobs by having taken this training, although you may not be the owner. The other thing is the Oregon Business ID. You don't have this yet. Please leave that blank. And the last section that we'd like you to help us with today is right down here, and it asks, how are you starting this business? How much are you putting in approximately? And I want you to take a step back at this point and kind of calculate roughly in your head. What is the value of the tools, the equipment, the vehicle? You had to take this class. You're going to have insurance of, on the low end, $1,200, on the higher end, $4,000 or $5,000, that you're going to have to invest in this business. And perhaps you have to go out and buy other tools and equipment. If you would put that number here, and if it's owner investment, put it here, or if you are going to be receiving a loan for part of it, then put that part up there that relates to the loan. And we'll fill out the rest. And so now we'll go to pause, allow you to fill out this information. And again, I want you to know this information is between you and your counselor, and it's how we best work with you and help you identify the needs that you have in preparation for starting your business. And so I'll pause and give you time to work on this and turn it into your counselor. Thank you. All right, now we're ready to return to the next step that I find a number of individuals need help with. If you have an I-10, this step applies to you. You must renew your W-7 each year as a business owner. And so if you have not already done that this year, you are going to need to complete this form. And again, we will help you and show you where to mail this form, and we'll help you complete it. But you would be completing it as a non-resident alien required so you can pay your taxes. Number B. You would also check H, other, because the reason you're filling this out and getting a renewal is so you can have a business ID. You need what's called an employer identification number. Even if you're not going to have employees, you need a federal tax ID number for your business. And so I would put here going into business on H. You're going to put your name exactly as it appears on your I-10 paperwork that you have before. Please bring this to the session with your counselor if you would like any help. We do need to see the old one, and that will make sure we fill it out exactly as before. If there has been any change in information as a result of perhaps a divorce or a name change that you've had, we need to attach a letter that explains why the name is different on your I-10. And so that's sections 1A and 1B. Your mailing address, this is asking for your United States mailing address that you use. And so if your physical address is different than your mailing address, they're asking for your mailing address. All right, and so they want you actually to include both. If you have a P.O. box, they do want the P.O. box as well, but they also want your physical address. I'm sorry on that part. Foreign address, I don't know of anybody that's coming through the construction contractor class that resides in a foreign country. If you have that circumstance, please meet with your counselor. It's a unique, very unique circumstance. Your birth information, certainly you know this, it needs to match your birth certificate. And you would fill all that information out in 4 through 6C. And coming on down, you would also complete the information regarding proof that you're going to send with this. So do you have a passport that is unexpired? Do you have a driver's license that's unexpired? You will not be sending the original. Only a very legible, clear copy will be sent. We'll be happy to make a copy if you need that. Bring the information with you, and we'll copy the documents to include with this. We'll help you fill this out. They want to know the date that you came into the United States. So when you come to this, you are again going to bring your old I-10 letter. You are going to bring your driver's license unexpired. And if you have a passport that's unexpired, please bring that. If you have anything else that is a document that you'd like us to look at, please bring that. And very important, bring your birth certificate. And it needs to be a certified copy of your birth certificate that we're able to copy. Then, if you have previously received an I-10, which is what you have, you would mark this, yes, I have an I-10, down here, yes, and you would complete the 9-digit number that you have been assigned. Then you come on down, and this doesn't apply to you. This is not a college that you're trying to go to. This is a business, and so skip the next section, 6G. You are going to sign it here, date it, include your phone number where they can reach you if there are any questions, and you're going to be good to go once you attach your documentation to this and mail it. It needs to be mailed by return receipt, and we have an entire set of instructions we'll provide to you. We don't want to take a lot of time in filling this out, but if this information does apply to you, you do have an I-10, we need to talk, and we'll help you through this process. Any questions? Okay, yes.
If I've renewed my I-10 in January and I have my I-10 letter, so do I need to do this again?
Okay, very good question. This individual has gotten her I-10 letter, and she got it in January. And so the answer is bring your I-10 letter with you, and we'll help you complete the SS4 if we cannot do the application online. And so, but we would need that letter as documentation that you have renewed. So thank you. And another question, I'm sorry.
I am a U.S. resident and I have a social security number. Do I need to do any of that?
This doesn't apply to you. If you have a valid social security number, you do not need to go through this step. But we have found that we have a number of folks coming from various countries that need this step, and so we just wanted to cover that in here. So we're going to pause right now and see if there's anyone in the class that might need further help with this. Thank you. All right, we're going to start jumping into your favorite topic. And it's why you went in business. You went into business to make more money. And so in terms of going into business, we wanted to show what is the most common mistake owners make right up front and result in so few making it. And so we wanted to start by showing this is not atypical. A new construction contractor might have 4 or 5 jobs, and that's around $3,500 they charge for those jobs. That's $14,000, and it's very common. Within 3 months, you're doing that if you're actively out selling your business. The next thing is you need to allow for subcontractors or employees, if you have them, the labor in the business. And then you had materials. It costs money in most cases to go out and buy materials and supplies to do that work. And you're not done yet. You have administrative costs, don't you? You have insurance, you have office supplies, you may have some repair and maintenance items, you might need to talk to an attorney or an accountant, and there are some other categories, but you're going to have some administrative costs to operate your business, and so you need to allow for those. In this case, this owner made $5,800 after paying all those bills. Do you think we're done?
Does that mean that I can write a check for myself for $5,800?
Good question. So in this case, can I write $5,800 in a check to myself, or if I'm a few more months down the road, can I write a check for $8,500? The answer to that is no. And I'm going to show you why. Because you owe taxes, don't you? You are self-employed. When you were an employee, you had FICA and Medicare withheld from your checks, federal and state withholding, and you may have had other benefits such as health insurance and things withheld from your check. Now you are the employer, and as a result, those bills still have to be paid. And so we want to make sure you're thinking about that as the owner of the business. It helps you consider how much you're going to price your goods and services at, and it also tells you how many jobs I absolutely have to do in doing your business. So we started out by showing you this, but we show you, and we do give you a copy in your packet as a reference. Now we're going to go to the next slide, which shows in more detail what you might expect from this same business. Remember how we left off with the contractor who made $5,800, and I know the numbers get a little small, so if you would like to refer to this in your packet, I think the colors will make it stand out pretty quickly for you. So taking this example in the first column, remember I talked to you about taxes, and you said, now wait a minute, really? 33%? And exactly how did you arrive at that, Diana? I didn't pay that much when I was working for somebody. And I'd like to go into some of the things that contribute to that 33%. And so if you'll bear with me, first of all, FICA and Medicare, you did pay this before. Now, as a self-employed individual, you get to pay the employer portion, what your employer always paid along the way. That puts us at 15.3%. You're not done. You also have income tax that you owe as an individual, and you did have that. You had withholding before, and you had that deducted. On the low end, it's 10%. I know you're starting out, so we'll go with the 10% number. See how quickly we get up there? Now we're at 25.3%. We're not done. In the state of Oregon, you have 8% for the state. See how we got to 33% very quickly. So that number is very real. So what do I do with that number? Do I scratch my head and worry? No. You've been paying this before. By and large, you've been paying this. You're now just paying it differently, and it's called estimated taxes that are due every quarter. And we're happy to explain that to you, or a good accountant or bookkeeper will also help you navigate that process. So a third comes out in taxes, so that $5,800 is going to be reduced by the $1,914 that are represented in taxes. You're not done yet. Do not expenses continue to roll in? You continue to have insurance. You continue to have office expenses. You need printer cartridges. So you need to leave something, and I recommend at least 10% you leave in the business. So instead of writing yourself a check for $5,800, it's more like $2,800 in this example. So you went from $14,000 that you're thinking, woohoo, I had $14,000 in sales. But when you come down to writing yourself a check as the owner, that's $2,800. This is an important step in your journey where you sit down and have a very honest discussion in your household. How much do I need after tax to make ends meet? In this case, if not quite $34,000 is a year is going to pay the bills in your home, what number will? You need to know what that number is, because you either need to save to allow yourself to grow till you make more money. Perhaps you consider going into the business part-time, working on nights and weekends and special jobs until you feel comfortable taking the step into self-employment. The other thing that's included in this is, do you have all the equipment and tools and supplies to really go out and start this business? If you don't, that becomes part of what I need. You need to come up with a startup cost of what it's going to take for you to go in business, so there are no hiccups. If $2,800 is not going to cover your family household expenses, where's the rest going to come from? A part-time job? Savings? I don't know. That's for you and your home to decide, but you must know this number to avoid the pain that will happen. Because a lot of people rush into business without really knowing what they need. The reason I did a little bit more is I wanted to show you many construction contractors are really going. By 6 months, they're really busy. They've begun to develop a reputation. People know them. They even have repeat business as well as referrals. And so now they're doing 5 or 6 jobs a month. In that case, 14 becomes 20. And the nice thing is, now, instead of making $2,800 a month, it gets more in the neighborhood of $4,200 to $4,500 a month. That equates to $25 an hour after taxes, or annually $50,800. This example continues on, and this is not unusual in what we see with successful construction contractors who continue to work through us with the Small Business Development Center. I do want to caution you at this point, and it's something that is of concern to us. When you go into self-employment, aside from paying your taxes, we want you to know you are not automatically covered as you were when you were an employee under workers' comp. In fact, even if you go out and choose to hire employees and buy a workers' comp policy, you are not covered under that policy unless you elect coverage for yourself and any other owners in the business. And so you need to know what that number is, because we have additional classes in record keeping and in estimating that help you know how much to charge. How do I know what I need to charge to have medical and dental and vision and life insurance and workers' compensation and allow for my taxes? We help you with that. We have a great program to help you with that following this. But the purpose of today is to help you make the decisions that go into business. And we want to help you with your favorite topic, which is getting paid. In terms of getting paid, many business owners are at this point, so how do I start this business? Is it just me? Do I have partners? What form of business should I choose that is going to be most cost effective for me and allows me the ability to grow Maybe I don't need partners to begin with. Maybe what I really need is just to get into business myself. I have people who are already starting to ask for me. They've known me for years, and they want me to get licensed so they can use me. Well, that's great news. There are structures in business that protect you and those that don't. And so here in just a moment, we're going to open up a PowerPoint that I'd like you to review with me. And so just a moment, and I will give you time to turn there. And if there are any other questions that you have on this slide, we'd certainly like to give you and your counselor present in the facilitated meeting here time to answer those questions for you. So we'll pause for just a moment. Thank you. All right, welcome back. And now we start the meat of our presentation. And so, in terms of quick start, we'd like to begin going through the details. So where do I start this business? Well, it isn't that I'm going to run out and start a roofing business or a siding business. It's not. Where you start this business is deciding the key points in your business. What are your goals? How much money do you need to make? How much money do you want to make? Where do you want to work now, in 3 years or 5 years? What are your values, your strengths, and frankly, your weaknesses? Because it's okay to admit, I can't do everything well. I'm an accountant. You do not want me doing drywall or siding. It won't look right. And I know that. That's why we need you guys very much, and ladies. However, the thing that's important to know is finding people that help with your weaknesses. If paperwork is not your thing, admit it and find someone to help you with it. Also, please do not assume that that nice family member at home, by virtue of being your family member, is automatically nominated. You need to ask. They deserve to be asked, and you need their permission to include them. They may not have any interest. And going into business is stressful. And I'd like to take just a moment and tell you how important family is in a business. How many of you would like to know you're going to accomplish 80% of your goals? Most people would be tickled if you accomplished 80% of your goals in life. That's a lot, right? 80%. If you write down a very detailed expectation of what you're going to do in this business, what does it look like? When you get up in the morning, what kind of vehicle do you drive? How many crews do you have? Where do you go to work? Do you have a shop? Is that a longer term goal? Where do you buy your supplies? How many accounts are you working for? How many customers every day? Are they residential, commercial, or both? Be very detailed about what your goal is. If you do that, you'll accomplish 80%. And I see this day in and day out with people who take me seriously. The next way to take it up a notch to the next level, tell your family. Tell your spouse, significant other, tell your immediate family, this is what I'm doing, and articulate it well. In other words, describe what I'm doing. Hello, I'm Diana, and I'm creating XYZ Construction, and we're going to do roofing in the Portland metro area for residential customers. And our goal is to work on houses that are 1,500 to maybe 4,500 square feet. That told people what I'm doing, and that helps them go out and know, do they fit into that category? Do they know of someone? You're inviting them to help you, but make sure your family knows it. It's also something you practice. It's like your elevator pitch. But if you want to knock it out of the park and take it to 95%, and who wouldn't? Tell your kids. Those kids talk. And I had a wonderful example in one of my classes where I had a student who took me to task on this, went home, developed his plan, wrote it down in great detail, and then when he got his business cards presented, he handed them out at the dinner table. And he gave one to his wife and to his children. And his little 8-year-old daughter went to school the next day with business card in hand and announced to the class that her daddy went into business and that he was a construction contractor and he did excavation and he also did cement work. She learned this from what Dad explained at the table. By the end of the day, Dad had an $8,000 job with that teacher who needed work at her home. By the end of the week, that teacher was so pleased with all the work, she told all the people in the lunchroom. And meanwhile, the daughter was talking all the time in the recess yard, everywhere all over the school, very proud. She got more business cards from Dad, by the way, handing them out every opportunity. Dad had $32,000 of business booked for the month by the end of the week. By the end of the month, that number was $40,000, just because you invited those children in. The other thing I want to tell you is they're afraid. Those kids go to school every day, and they've heard the stories of failure, of moms and dads and aunts and uncles and grandmas and grandpas and others who don't make it in business, and they're afraid, as is your spouse and significant other. How do you combat that and deal with that up front? You have integrity. You are honest with them. You tell them the steps that you're taking to be successful. You include them and celebrate your successes. And after class today, you have one to go home and do. You get to go home and celebrate, I am now in the top 30% of construction contractors. I have gone to class, I am licensed, I am bonded, and I'm insured in my field. I'm at the top, and I'm really excited to go out and do a great job for people. Don't fail to do those celebrations, because you want those people along in your journey, and they are the ones that this is all about. You went into this for yourself and for your family, so bring them along for the journey, and you'll find that you'll do extremely well in business. I want you to take a moment and decide, do I need a partner? Do I want a partner? What does having a partner mean? Well, in the CCB application that we'll get to in the latter part of this class, it's incredibly important. Business partners, while they may have been great people that you worked with day in and day out for a long time, they may even be neighbors or family members. Do they have the same values that you do? Do they have the same approach to credit? Do they pay their bills on time? Do they have some money in savings? Are they hard workers? Do they show up on time? Do they complete the task? Do they go above and beyond? What are their expectations? Another question is, what does their driving record look like? If they have DWIs or other lots of speeding tickets or reckless driving, are you really sure you want that person driving your construction vehicle and endangering your business and potentially others out there? Do you want that person as a partner as a result of that? There are also some very pointed questions on the exam that basically it is an exam when you fill out the application. They want to know that you do not have construction debt that you have left unpaid, as well as anyone else who is an owner in the business. If you do have that situation, you may not be able to go into business with that person. Do they have a criminal background? And they list an entire series of things that if they have been convicted of felony activities that are fairly comprehensive, you may not be able to go into business with them. So what do I recommend? Well, I recommend if you're going into business with someone, just because I've worked with them for a long time, I'm going to do my homework and I'm going to show them my information. And one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to show them my credit report, that I'm good about paying my bills, because it shows on there how I've treated my other vendors. Number two, I'm going to show them my background check to show the very states that I've lived in, I do not have felony or bad record on things. And I'm going to show them my driving record to show that I am a responsible driver. The next thing I'm going to do is ask that person or persons to sit down and complete a list of things that they're expecting out of this business. How much do they want? If they're wanting $150,000 and they're not going to be happy till they get it, do you want an unhappy business partner day in and day out because they're not getting $150,000 a year? Do they insist on a brand new truck and big fancy new equipment all the time? Or are they willing to help you work their way up? You want a partner that is engaged in this business as you are. You might also want to have a discussion about percent of ownership. If you're going to have a partner, is that person going to own just what you do? Are you each contributing the exact same resources? I rarely find that you are. And in situations where it's 50-50, my disappointment has been that they never make a decision. Someone should have a controlling interest. If you're going to go into contracting, there are some other things that you might want to consider in terms of ownership. If you're a veteran, or if you're a minority, or you're a woman, there are things that the percent of ownership could actually help you win construction bids. And so that may play into the percent of ownership. These are all discussions to openly have up front. And I ask that you do not go into business as a partnership until you meet with an attorney and get an operating agreement. This agreement makes sure that you and your partners are clearly understanding who's responsible for what, who owns what, who is contributing what, how, if you decide this is not working out for whatever reason, how you value the business and assets. And you want first right of refusal. So if they want to sell out their share because they'd like to move somewhere else, or this just wasn't their thing, they decided after a while, that's not a problem. But I would not want them to sell it to someone I just could not work with. And so I sit down and make sure that we have all of these things mapped out so there's just no misunderstanding. And if you say, well, it's my wife, my goodness, we've been married for many years, or my husband, why would I need an operating agreement? We've been married. The number of people that come into our office a few months after starting business with each other, it is not a happy discussion in many cases. Those hand-holding lovebirds that came into my office are not happy with each other. And literally, the operating agreement would have solved many of those discussion points. I know that things may be tight in starting your business, but I do have one other suggestion, or maybe a couple, to help you with that. Lewis and Clark has a law school here in Oregon, and they're wonderful. They even have set up a small business legal clinic. And if you go to lewisandclark.edu, and in the search box type Small Business Legal Clinic, a form will pop up where you can register and ask for an appointment. Now, that doesn't an appointment where you must come in person, but they're very reasonably priced, $25 to $100. It's sliding scale based on your income, but that's a pretty reasonable start. Another option could be that you go to an attorney. You can go to the Oregon Bar Association, Oregon, and if you type that in the internet, they will come up, and they will refer a lawyer to you in your area. And you could ask the specialty for construction, or you might ask for someone who does roofing or siding, or anyway, you can get referrals that way. You may have to pay, or many times attorneys will grant the first half hour to an hour of no charge. And it gives you a great opportunity to meet an attorney and decide if this is a good relationship for you to work with them or not. And as much as I wish it were different, unfortunately, construction contractors find themselves involved in litigation at times, and you need an attorney. The time to look for one is not when you have problems. And so make sure you have legal counsel and good accounting counsel lined up for you. We're here to help you start and navigate a lot of the questions, but there may be specifics in your business that you need help with. And we want to be sure you have the representatives that can help you with those issues. All right, so a lot on partnerships. But I do want to say the reason in forming a partnership is so you can avoid workers' comp is like the worst idea you can think of. And we'll come back to that topic, but I want to put that out there right now. We've already talked about how much do you want to make, what do you need to get started in terms of resources or skill sets, and what is your timeline. And this is an important topic to start at this point. If you have an ITIN, the renewal timeline is going to take 4 to 6 weeks on that W-7 form we talked earlier. And that has to be done before you can go into business. Then the state of Oregon in the Construction Contractor Board needs 30 days. And I'd like at this point to explain a little bit about what the Construction Contractor Board is all about. They're not just there to take money and stamp it and hand you a number. They were formed for a very serious reason. There were contractors who were taking advantage of individuals and businesses here. And so they ensure that there is integrity in the process. They make sure that you have a license, that you are insured, that you are bonded, and that you don't have complaints against you, whether it's from employees, customers, or vendors. And so they manage the process very well. They also make sure that they are not allowing people into others' homes and businesses that frankly shouldn't be there. They're people with a very serious background. They don't pay their bills, or they just never complete the jobs like they promise they will do. So the Construction Contractor Board has a very important role that they play, and that fee that you pay really helps them navigate that process and manage it with you. And they're your partners in making sure that legitimate people do this business. And so realizing that it's going to take them 30 days to do that. So what have I said? If you have an I-10 renewal issue, a W-7, that's 4 to 6 weeks. Then it can take another potentially 30 days after you rush right out and go apply with the CCB. And so that could be a 60+ day window. And I want to set that example. We always tell contractors in the pre-certification class and applicants, don't quit your day job. Keep your job until you can truly go into business, if your plan is to go into business full-time for yourself, because we're not trying to create a hardship for you or your family, and we want you to make good choices. Now we're going to take just a moment, and I have handed this out in your packet. It's a little pink piece of paper. I like pink, so it's pink. And I call it an invitation, Dare to Dream. Remember these numbers? I talked about success rates. I want to get you started. And so I'm not going to make you do this right now, but I want you to write down just a few things. What do I expect? Do I need partners? What do I need in equipment, tools? What kind of service providers do I need to help me? When am I going to start this business? What am I going to do in my business? If I am a specialist and I do roofing, but I've never done siding, maybe I start out with roofing, but my longer term intent is to be able to do everything. Remodeling, new construction, commercial construction, put it down. And when you plan on doing it. When we talked earlier, do I see myself getting up and going out in a nice new vehicle? Do I arrive with a fully stocked equipment? Do I have all of the tools that I need to do things? Is it a cement mixer? Whatever it is, you put it down. When you write it down, you're setting yourself up to succeed. And I would ask that you go home after class tonight, after celebrating with your family, and get started on this. And it isn't going to be something that you do in one day. It's a pie. And I haven't met very many people who eat a whole pie at one sitting. Take time and a slice at a time and complete it. You've got time. Between working with us and the Construction Contractor Board, there's more than adequate time to do this and do it right. Please do that. I want you to include your values while you're at it. What is your integrity level? If I didn't do a good job, or an employee didn't do such a hot job, am I going to come back and fix it and do it right? That's integrity. Am I going to stick by the numbers that I quote people? The CCB says you will, but that's also a matter of integrity. Honesty. I'm going to be honest with my employees on the hours, my vendors in terms of paying them what they are due. What is my plan for workmanship? Am I going to do lots and lots of jobs, high volume, but maybe not quite the high level of quality? Or do I consider myself a craftsman and I'm going to do a great job and it's going to be par excellence? So you decide what you are. These describe your business and they should be on your Dare to Dream sheet. List your strengths, your weaknesses, your likes and dislikes, put them on there. Some people absolutely hate paperwork. Feel free to put it down. And what brought you to this point? It's not just money. Is it the feeling of independence? Is it the ability to go out and do the things maybe you just can't do right now in a job? You think you can do more, and you're not able to. You're in kind of a finite job string. That's okay. We're happy to help you move into your business. And be very honest about the resources you need, because perhaps financing is involved, perhaps you need to spend a little time and save some money before you go into this. Remember, you have 2 years from the date you took the test in order to register with the CCB and turn in a completed application with $250. You have time on your side while you're doing this to do it and do it right. What happened there? Okay, we talked about, will you have others join you in this business? We went through the partnership thing. What are they going to contribute, their skills, and so forth. And if you're going to add them, please, please, I mentioned earlier, do not add them just to avoid workers' compensation, because workers' compensation can be navigated very easily. If you hire someone, either they're a subcontractor, and I'd like to define subcontractor for you. A subcontractor is, in the state of Oregon in construction, someone who has a valid CCB license, they have their own insurance, and they're able to perform that duty or function you're asking them to do. So that means if they are unlicensed, they don't have a CCB license, they cannot be a subcontractor. They can only be an employee, and they can work under you on jobs. That means they're an employee. And that means setting things up properly with BOLI in the state of Oregon and setting things up with the IRS. One way to navigate if you need employees, and I can't imagine many construction contractors who go it alone, there are wonderful temporary help services to help you. There are also payroll services ranging from the national services, ADP, Ceridian, Paychex, and then there are others that are local, and we're developing a list of those to share with you in the near future that you can check with so you can receive these services as you do the things you need to do. All right, moving forward. So what are my options? Well, the IRS says your first option is you can be a sole proprietor. That means you're a party of one. It's me. Easiest form of business to go into, and it is the most popular form of business. However, there are things you need to know. You cannot sell yourself. So if your plan, and that goes back to the Dare to Dream stage, is in 5 or 10 years you would like to sell part or all of your business, there is nothing to sell other than your assets because it's you and you can't sell yourself. So that was going to make you pick a different form of ownership. Another consideration is, am I concerned about my assets? So if I do happen to face that unpleasant circumstance that I get sued, in a sole proprietorship, all of your assets are on the line. So if there is not enough in business insurance and business assets to pay off the party that sues you, and they win, they can take your house, your car, your savings, and all of your assets, up to whatever their claim is. Think about that just a little bit. It does allow great ease of filing your taxes. File a Schedule C, so you don't even have to file a whole separate return. It's cheaper. There are consequences, though. We've talked about that. Can't transfer it, and the protection issue. How do I get close to that and avoid some of the pitfalls? Perhaps you'll consider a limited liability corporation. I can be an LLC as one person. It can afford me this degree of protection, the wall, as long as I do things correctly. And down the road, I can navigate and become a partnership. I can choose to bring somebody on as a partner. There are some things you need to remember. An LLC means I have limits to my liability as long as I tell people in every communication, written and verbal, I maintain my name. So that means on your voicemail, hello, this is Diana with XYZ Construction LLC. I make sure I represent that. On my voicemails, on my emails, it's my email included in there. It's not Diana at XYZ Construction. LLC must be represented there. What about your website? What about your invoice, your quote? How about your shirts or jackets that you might be wearing? The sign on your truck? Everything must be representing that there are limits to my liability. The next thing that will help protect you is to make sure that you treat your business as a business. And so that means in your business checking, you do business expenditures. You are not going to pay for vacation, groceries, the kids' camp, the fun game that you wanted to go to for one of the local sports teams. No. Those things are personal. So the earlier example that we had, that you had money and you could write yourself a check. write it or transfer the money into your personal account, and whatever you do with it, that is, of course, your choice. But in the business account, it's business, and make sure you do not violate that rule, because if you do, it's called commingling of funds. It's all one and the same, so there really is no limit to my liability. Please remember that, okay? If you bring up partners, remember the operating agreement we talked to? Nobody's going to knock on your door and say, where's that operating agreement? It's your responsibility. You're in business. Make sure you get that. The next thing is you're going to have a new tax filing deadline. And if you are making notes, boy, this is a big one to make. When I have a partner in my LLC, we no longer have an April 15 deadline by which we have to file things. It's now March 15. And it has very serious penalties, like $495 per partner per month. So if I should make the mistake and not file my taxes as a partnership until April, I am now 2 months late and I owe nearly $2,000 in penalties to the IRS. That doesn't even count what you owe the state. So don't miss the tax filing deadline if you're going to be a partnership. You will file a Form 1065 if you're a partnership. Questions?
I have a question. Limited liability corporations have members. Are you saying that if I have more than one member, I have to file by the 15th?
Yes. Yes, those are the partners in the
That's what
business.
you're calling
Mhm.
Okay.
There is an option as a partnership, oh, by the way, that you're not a limited liability company, but you do not have those levels of protection because there's no limit to your liability. The partnerships are wide open. You still have this filing deadline. So I don't encourage you to go that route. The next form, and LLC, again, we talked about the operating agreement and things earlier. Let's move on to the sub-S. Many of you have heard that. You've heard of folks that have been in business for a while and you're going, whew, this is a great thing. I have a lot of tax advantages in it. Sure. But with anything that's a good deal, make sure that you understand the requirements. And one of the requirements of a sub-S is you file a new tax return, 1120S, and it has a deadline of March 15 for most of you. But the other thing is you're going to pay yourself a stated wage. So if a construction manager typically makes $60,000 a year and you put that as your stated wage, you will pay yourself $60,000 a year even if you don't have enough to pay it. The IRS says you will, and they gave you that special tax treatment. So be sure before you enter into this, a sub-S is going to take more skill, it's going to be more expensive, and it's a one-way street. If I find that things aren't going so great, the IRS says going back is really expensive and we're not going to make it easy. And so please give yourself a chance. If you're going to be an LLC, give yourself a year or two. Learn what your revenue streams look like. Get some savings going so that you can cover the years that are hard. I think you're starting to see, in terms of your Dare to Dream stage, this isn't anything overnight. It's a long-term plan. But this is why people make it, because they take time to plan. So the sub-S, again, one-way street. I've gone the wrong way down a one-way street and it wasn't pleasant, and I don't want you to do that in your business. You must work with an accountant to do that. A corporation is another form of business. It used to be the most common until LLCs came on the horizon back in the 90s. And they were simpler, less expensive to operate, and actually now they are the most common form of business in the corporate realm. A C Corp has some things you really need to understand. It has double taxation. The profits of the business are taxed, and then when they are paid as dividends to the shareholders, they're taxed again. So you need somebody who can help you navigate that, or you could be paying a very serious amount in taxes, and it will be a lot more than 33%. So be sure you understand the benefits of this. And there are a lot of great benefits, but it takes a lot more sophistication and a lot more management to do a C Corp in terms of doing it. So the state of Oregon says it's $100. They do not mind whether you're a C Corp, a sub-S, a sole member LLC, a multi-member LLC, it's $100. So it's all the same, but the consequences are very different. And I'd like to give you an opportunity now to talk with anyone that is facilitating you there for questions that you may have. I'm sure there are many, but before we scoot to that, I thought I would see if there are any questions in our audience here.
What if I want to change? If I start out with one and I want to change?
The LLC?
Yeah.
You just create an operating agreement and you agree on what percent you each own, and then determine who has what roles and responsibilities, what they're contributing, and all the ownership rights, how profits will be distributed, as well as expenses. And once you figure that out, you keep the same tax ID number, so it's transparent to customers, it's transparent to vendors, but you're now transferring into a more complex form of business, and it lets you grow with it. And same thing can happen. You can translate that from an LLC with a filing of a form. You can now become a sub S, keep the same federal tax ID number. You just have to execute a few other documents, but it's transparent to your employees, your customers, and your vendors. It just has the consequences that you have to understand. But a great way to grow your business and not make it a big headache for you. Good question. Thank you. Okay, well, let's take a moment and allow our facilitators to answer questions specific to our classes. Thank you. Welcome back, and now we're going to take just a moment and talk about, wow, we've been through all this information. Am I really sure I want to go into business? This seems like a lot of complications. We've put this class together to help you really evaluate before you take the final step, and we help you set up your business. Is this what you want to do? And it may seem like an odd question, but we can tell people, are you really sure? But we have put this class together because some people are not ready to go in business. And you need to decide, am I willing to sit down and fill out my reports on time? Am I going to pay my taxes on time as needed? Am I going to report to my family? Am I going to make sure I'm diligent in doing all the contracts with my customers and writing out good proposals? And am I going to stay compliant with these things? If paperwork is not your thing, you're going to need to get a bookkeeper and an accountant to help you, and an attorney, and that takes money. So only you know the answers to those questions. But if you write down in your Dare to Dream, this is what I see myself doing, and this is how I'm going to go about it, we can tell you if it's reasonable or not in your journey. And instead of just jumping in and failing, we want to see you succeed. And so don't be hesitant. We're here as your facilitators and your counselors to help you make that decision. I'm an accountant, and I've been at this for over 30 years. And the people that take me to heart, that write this down, that sit up in their seats and pay attention, and I know at this point your seat of understanding is probably a little tired. We want to make sure you get all the information you can, but then remember those yellow forms you filled out earlier? You have counselors that will come beside you and help you understand things. And by all means, if you are getting letters from the IRS or the state of Oregon and you're just not sure about them, bring them in, make an appointment, and we'll look through them. Our counseling is at no charge. We exist to serve you, so let us help. Make sure it's you know where you're at and your options. The other thing, just like in our personal lives, we learn to decide who's real and who's not. Once you go into business, especially in the state of Oregon, your address and all your information is now public domain. That means it's out there for everybody to see. You're going to have people representing you need this, you need that. If you're not sure if it's really a valid thing they're telling you that you need, bring it in. We'll look at it and we'll tell you our thoughts on it and give you our recommendations. So how do I go about this? A lot of people start here at the end and they rush right out and register with the IRS. Then they think they can work backwards and register with the state of Oregon and then see if the website is available. That's not the order to do your business. You're going to want to start, and this is just a search. Don't take all their specials and all the flashing things they offer you on the screen. There are different services. We gave you a couple, but there's certainly more. And so check to see if your website is available. Your name, no spaces, xyzconstructionllc.com, no spaces. If that were my business, I want to see if it's available. Spelling matters. Make sure you take great care in typing it in. If it's available, leave that window open. And now we're going to help you navigate to the next screen where we look at the Oregon Secretary of State and see if the name is available that you're looking for. If it is a name that is very popular and in large part it's taken, the state may tell you you need to pick a different name. And so we ask you to come to our offices with 4 different in descending order of what your preference is. This is what I'd like to call my business. And what a great opportunity to invite your family to help you name your business. Sit down and ask them, what do you think I should call it? Take a moment and say, is the name descriptive of what I do? If I do construction and I say Genesis Services, what does that mean? I don't know that you do construction or pool services. Also, think about your name. Some of you have names that do or do not lend themselves to what you do. If my last name is Poole, P-O-O-L-E, and I put Pool Contracting LLC, do you know what people will think? I am a pool contractor. If I don't install pools, I probably am not going to use my name. I'm going to pick a different name. I may want to put in there that I do remodeling, I do construction. It's all about hits on the website. So think a moment about your name. And I want you also to think about the length. Do not say, this is XYZ Construction, Remodeling, and Cement Work LLC. Do you want to say that every time you pick up the phone? Type it every time you go on the internet? I don't think so. So you don't want it too long, and you want it to be descriptive of what you do. It might take you a little bit of time to work through this, but it's worth it. So again, pick 4, because this is the final reason. The state will tell you all the ones that are taken, so you know right up front to keep going. The unfortunate thing is, unless you're a nonprofit, and we're not setting you up as a nonprofit, we don't know until we get to the next screen when we go to register you. We are literally on the IRS EIN website registering you, and we don't know if that name is taken until we get to one point in the registration process. Then it will tell us it's taken. So why would that be? Well, the state of Oregon may say it's available, but what about one of the other states? It's taken in Tennessee or Mississippi or Colorado. And so that is why we put it in this order. You start by looking to see if the URL is available. You look, keep the window open. Then we will keep the Secretary of State window open. And then we'll register you with the IRS when we're at that point. We need some information to do that. And I'm going to pause and take just a moment and go through a form that I need your help in completing to make sure our time, because we have set amount of time also, is effective as we work with you. And so this form helps us help you get through everything quickly in our appointment. The first thing, we need you to come with your current U.S. driver's license. If your driver's license is going to expire within the next 60 days, go get it renewed. So we have plenty of time to work with, and due to the timeline that everything takes, let's get that taken care of. You'll need to come with the CCB sheet where this is your test score. You must come with that. We'll be happy to make a copy of it for you, but you must come with that. We also need to know which CCB application, and later in today's presentation, we'll go through the different elements to help you decide which application is right for you. You'll also need your real insurance certificate when we sit down and fill everything out in final. But to work with you to set up the business, we need to know your 4 choices. We also need to know your legal name as it appears on your last tax return. And if you have an ITIN, we need your ITIN renewal so we can see if there's any difference, because we may run into problems in registering you. Some people leave off part of their last name, put in a hyphen, or they don't. The IRS is exact, and so we need that information. We also need to know your addresses, and you may have two, sometimes one. If you are thinking you want a P.O. box, this is a really good time to go out and get your P.O. box. So before you come in and meet with us, go out and get that P.O. box so we can put it on the Secretary of State website and protect your privacy. As soon as it goes on the Secretary of State website for your mailing address, it will be published for any and all to see it. So if you want to protect your privacy, get that up front. You will need a physical address in the state of Oregon, and we need that. And it's not good enough if this is not your home address, as an example. Some people have a shop, but most people use their home address to start with. If your home address is not in Oregon and you make arrangements with a friend or family member who lives in Oregon, it's not good enough just to write their name down. Part of the CCB checking is going to see if you're authorized to receive mail in your business name at that address. That means you must accompany your family member or friend to the post office and have them add you, and you'll have to go with them, allowing you to receive mail. Because if they find out you're not authorized to receive mail at that address, they are not going to give you your CCB license. Why? Because this is the service address. If they have to send you a written summons or any other document, they want to know where they can come deliver it. That's a legal address of record that you're authorized to receive mail at.
They're not
in
gonna
person.
send it to your P.O. box.
They do not send it, exactly. It does not come to your P.O. box. It comes to your physical address.
So I need to be a resident in Oregon then?
You do not have to be a resident in Oregon. You must have permission to use that physical address. So what are the options? Well, you can go to a law firm. Some law firms and accounting firms and financial planners for $50 to $200 a year will agree to be your agent of record, where mail is received, service is received, not the P.O. box, your checks, any business communications. I'm talking service. Think of a court document. It's unpleasant, but if you've ever been served, they want the address where they find you. This is the address, the legal record of address somebody's going to take service. Okay? Any other questions on that? Okay. The next thing will be obviously your driver's license. And as you've kind of guessed, there have been some forms today and you're doing this. This helps us fly through things. We have a lot of you. We want to work with as many as possible. And so we developed this after working with construction contractors and it taking hours to register people. We want you to have time to do the homework and think things through and talk it out on when it works for you, instead of you're in our office and then you have to make another appointment. And so we're asking for you to come prepared. This has to be legible. We have to be able to read it. If you do not write well, get someone to help you that writes well so we can read it. So we need your driver's license, date of birth, and the state that it's issued. If you have an ITIN, we will be comparing your date of birth, because I have found enough instances of where the date of birth on your driver's license doesn't match the ITIN. Guess what? You'll never get an employer ID number till we get that fixed. So we're happy to help you fix it, but we look for all these points to help you. Your email. Now, right now, your personal email is fine. Longer term, we want to help you set up a business email, but this is the one we're going to work with now. Then your full Social Security number and ITIN. They are 9 digits. So please make sure we have all those. Okay, I haven't had, but I think 2 so far that you're already in business and you're opening up another business. If you're in business, you already know your EIN from the business you already have. And you would bring that if one business is setting up this one. We need your cell phone number where we can reach you, and some of you have a fax, but mainly not. But if you do, that's great. That's needed on some forms. We're happy to put the Small Business Development Center's fax number on there so communications can come back and forth on your behalf, so you can receive them. This is important, it's in green for a reason. We want your attention. When you come in and meet with us, the state of Oregon requires $100 in payment. And so when we go on their website, we have to enter a debit or a credit card. And I'm sorry to say, a prepaid card does not work because it has to be associated with your name and your address. And so a prepaid card is not going to have that, and it doesn't work. We cannot accept cash. And so it must be on a debit or a credit card that you're authorized to use. And it's $100. If you want us to register your website, the lowest price is going to be $22 a year. And if you want a website where you build it, we can set you up at the time when you're doing it. It's $122. If you want us just to set that up so you can leave and it's all set. I do want to issue a point of caution at this point. If we register you on everything, but we don't set up your website, guess what? Within 4 to 6 hours of filing with the Secretary of State of Oregon, it's now publicly out there. There are people who have a business, and all day, every day, they go out and they pay 2 to 4 cents, depending on how many hundreds a day they buy, of domains. And so instead of paying, $22, you might be offered the opportunity to buy your name, which you spent all this other time and effort getting set up. On the low end, it's the lowest I've had is $500, and on the upper side, $2,500. So that's why I recommend you don't wait. Even if you're not ready to use it right now, or you don't see it in the next year. What about 3 years or 5 years? Yes?
So I have a question. You're saying signing up for a website, but you don't mean put the website together. You just mean reserve the domain name. Is that right? Or
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So what I'm trying to explain is it's not necessarily to build your website and you have to think about all the pages and the ways you make it look perfect, as our question was asked. What it means is we reserve the name. And for 1 year, you will have the opportunity to go in and set up that website to your heart's content. And if you're still not ready after another year, you pay another $22 or $25 and you have it again for another year. That way, you are preserving your right down the road when you're ready to go online. And oh, by the way, how much business do you think is conducted online? Any ideas?
75%.
As much as 75%. And so you might be excluding a fairly large segment of your customer base if you do not get a website before long. Give that some thought when you're making this decision. Okay, just a few more points on this form. Again, I know it's a form. People really struggle with this, but when we go online, the state of Oregon says we have to have an ID. And no, I cannot use your email. And no, I cannot use your name. And no, I cannot use the name of your business. And it needs to be at least 8 digits. And it needs to have upper and lower case and no special characters. And sometimes it takes a little time to figure this out. Remember, we have a time limit as we work with you. We can set you up in like 15 or 20 minutes if we have this information. I had one person spend 22 minutes on this 2 weeks ago, literally. Could not decide on this. And finally, I was trying to help them. I understand. There's lots out there. You don't want it to get away. Pick it. But remember, at least one uppercase, at least one lowercase, and a number. 8 digits. That's the ID number. We're going to make sure you have a copy of this because you're going to need this again and again and again. As you work in business, there's a lot of papers you keep track of, and this is going to be one. The next thing is the password. Same routine. It has to be 8 digits, and no, it cannot be the same as your ID. So you need something different. And so one uppercase, at least one lowercase, and a number. So get that figured out ahead of time. The next one, I went back and forth with an individual for 5 minutes trying to get them to pick the security question they were sure they could remember. Pick one. I want you, is it the model of your first car, your teacher, your mom or dad's maiden name, your grandma's birth city, your high school mascot, or your youngest child's name? You pick one. This is upper and lower case sensitive. So if you pick Mario with a capital M and you enter it in the website with Mario with a lowercase m, you're going to get a denial. You're going to get a reject. So that's why we make you write this down and we put it here so we can make good use of your time and hours as we work with you.
Wouldn't it be a good idea if you just took a picture of that?
It can be.
Because you have it there, I mean.
That might be a great solution. So we've had the thought that perhaps as we're filling this out, you make a copy of it, and if you look at things on your phone, you make a little camera picture of it. Might be a good idea. Your bin registration. You are going to be given the opportunity when registering with the Oregon Secretary of State. And please don't register yourself. There's a few places, if you check the wrong box, you're going to have penalty notices of $6,400 a quarter that you may not be anticipating because you didn't understand them. Let us help you. We do it all day, every day. We look forward to doing it, and again, no charge. So the bin registration basically says, I'm an employer. If starting out day one, you do not have employees and you don't have workers' comp, the good news is that doesn't matter to you right now. You don't have to fill it out. But if you do have employees, we'll need this information filled out. Simple enough? All right. So that form we're not going to take time out now and fill out because I'm sure there's information you have to pull from home. All right, so you've picked out your business. We've helped you set it up. Now what? It's the main event. It's what you went through. And so in your packets, we provided information, and we are happy to make sure you understand the different types of applications available through the CCB. There are currently 3. You can choose residential. That means you just work on residential and small commercial, and we'll get to the definition of that in a moment. You can work on residential and commercial, which means you can work on it all. There are caveats you need to understand on that. And the final one is the commercial license. I just want to take a moment, and maybe this will help you make the decision really quickly which one is for you. To be a commercial contractor, whether commercial and residential or just commercial, you must be able to demonstrate in writing 4 years of documentable experience in construction. So that means on a construction company's letterhead, you must have a statement from them. The Diana attorney worked for them from here to here, must be at least 4 years, 8 years if you want the full commercial license, and the last 4 of your Social Security or ITIN, and the types of things you did, signed by an officer of the company and dated. And that must be on their letterhead. So can you get that is my first question. Can you document, and a paycheck is not documentation, that you were in construction. Anybody could work for a construction company, but not work in construction. So you have to have on their letterhead, you worked in construction. If you cannot start with that, this is a lesson learned. Start with day one in your business. So if necessary, and you would like to move to contracting, like we started out at the very beginning of everything today, you understand you've got 4 years that you're going to need to build up a reputation that you can prove, and then you can put it on your own letterhead that you have worked for your company for 4 years or 8 years, whichever one you're going for. Does that make sense? Does anyone have a question before I go on from that?
In the second scenario you just pointed out, if I'm already in business and I want to substantiate my experience in commercial, I won't be doing commercial, so I don't think that's going to be adequate. In other words, if I'm a residential contractor and I have 4 years of experience in residential contracting, that won't get me a commercial license.
They say currently 4 years in construction. That's how it reads right now. 4 years in construction or 8 years. That's what they say, construction.
It doesn't stipulate.
So you can put on the letterhead, I have done residential and small commercial construction in the following duties, roofing, insulation, yada yada. You put that down and you sign and date it on your letterhead. That's one of the documents that you would then need to turn in with the commercial license or the residential and commercial. The other thing that may make you choose, and we're going to take a moment here and go over to the commercial application, but it talks about what you will work on. A residential structure, you can work on, stop that. Okay. A residential structure, it doesn't have limitations, dollars, floors, anything like that. You can work on any residential structure defined as a single-family residence or an apartment or complex, 4 stories or less. So that's still working on a lot of business structures and units in the state of Oregon. A small commercial structure is defined as less than 10,000 square feet and not more than 20 feet high. It also, the project, so if you were asked to renovate a great big box store, and it was bigger than 10,000 square feet, you couldn't do it. If the project was going to be more than 250,000, you could not do it with a residential and small commercial license. That's why some of you are in here today asking, how do I get this commercial license? And so we're here to help you with that. So then they define commercial as being 4 stories or more. Could be hospitals, parking garages, shopping malls. In other words, really big structures. It also has another requirement with it. Look right here. A residential contractor only has to have a $20,000 bond. However, if you get down here to a level 1 commercial contractor, you have to have a $75,000 bond. It's a lot more money. Okay, and the next thing that kind of makes you stop and think a little is what you're required to have on insurance, $500,000 per occurrence and aggregate. When you do commercial structures, because they are so big, it's $2 million. If you're a level 1. If you're a level 2, then these numbers are just a little bit more. This is $500,000 instead of $1 million on a residential construction contractor. So aside from the proof of experience, you have to decide the structures I'm going to work on, and I also have to decide, can I afford the insurance? And that may make you choose where you start, because the commercial construction, that's $5,000 to $15,000 depending on the type of construction that you do just for insurance. So you're definitely going to want to do some shopping before you settle on what you do in final. So we feel that the best use of your time today, and we're happy to work with anyone who is a commercial contractor and meet with you separately to help you fill everything out. Most of the sections apply. This is the big difference right here. So it is worth your time to go through these other sections. So now we're going to take and go over here to the residential and small commercial. So this is what your license looks like, your application. Application for residential. I know it doesn't say small commercial, but it's included. And I don't make the form, but it's included in there. And so here is their office in Salem, Oregon. These are some little hints I would like to give you. Hint number 1, while you have the option of mailing, you cannot fax it. Do you want to take and wait another 3 or 4 weeks? Probably not. And so you might want to go to the office. So go to Salem. Then the next thing is when to go. Do not go on Monday and don't go on Friday. Go on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. The best days of the week, you'll be glad. Next shortcut, they open at 8:30. Don't get there with the herd. Get there at 9. After they get settled, people get in for the day. Between 9 to 11. They break for lunch at noon. Do not come in at 11:45 and expect to get helped. 11. Then, since they break for lunch, 1 to 3. Do not come in at 4 o'clock and expect to accomplish your goal for the day. So these are the shortcuts to help you navigate the best times to go to achieve your goal. The other thing on the front of this application is also a phone number. Some of you have questions, and so if you're feeling a little uncomfortable about a question that you don't even want to pose to us, and we don't always know the answers either. If you have a serious credit issue, or if you have a background of felonies, I really want to ask you, call them. Before you spend the $250, before you have us register you with the state of Oregon, if they're going to say no, I do not want to make you put more money out when they're going to say no. So call them and describe it. If there is any kind of a felony in your background or a serious credit problem that relates to workers' compensation, not paying wages, not paying construction debt, and not paying vendors, you're going to be writing an essay to explain what happened and what you did to cure it and what caused it. They still reserve the right to say no. And so we do not make that choice. We can help you draft something up if you need help. You'll need to be very specific and provide details and bring in information to help us with that. Okay? This application, we're certainly giving you one today. We recommend that after we get this all filled out, you do something. Make a copy. Everybody's human. If yours gets misplaced, do you want to try and go through this again? So take a copy of everything. It makes life so much better. All right, this is going to go much more quickly now at this point. Finally, you're right. Okay. So the next page is we're going to go through all this and give you the shortcuts to fill this out. So feel like you're getting the open book test treatment here. So the first page that it really starts with, interestingly enough, we went through 3 pages to get here, but this is page 1. On page 1, it says, fill this out if you're a sole proprietorship. So remember back to the business structure that we did, that discussion. You know if you're registering as a sole proprietor. If you are not, do yourself a favor so you don't get mixed up, because it's not like you went over and above if you fill all these out when you didn't have to. They don't know what you wanted, and so they don't do anything with your application. So if you are not going to be a sole proprietor, take your highlighter and mark through the page so you know not to do it and save yourself some time and headaches. It also means less work. Then the next page doesn't apply because you're not a sole proprietor. So goodbye to page 2. It gets the treatment. Okay, this is page 2. And these start looking alike. And you're going to notice that in just a moment. The pages look a lot alike. Aside from the header, everything else looks a lot alike here. And so this one says CCB license for a limited liability company. If you decided on an LLC, whether 1 member or 1,000, because you can have 1,000 members in an LLC, this is you. And so it starts here, you have your name exactly as you've registered it with the state of Oregon when you met with us, including the name LLC on it. What you were registered with the state of Oregon. So when that Secretary of State registration was done and the $100 was paid, on the paperwork, we have that $100. We have lots of people that kind of create their own nightmare because, well, I don't know what that was. I didn't print it out. I don't have it. We can't submit your application without it. And that's why we have you keep that paper so we can go back in and pull it up. It takes almost an hour to navigate their reset process with the Secretary of State, so keep that paper. Don't lose it. Hint, hint. All right, this is important. Remember the mailing address. If you're going to go out and get a P.O. box because you don't want to leave your home address for everyone, then go get that P.O. box. So when you set this up, you have it. Then it's clear. If you don't, the world doesn't come to an end. I'm just telling you, it's on a public website. Everybody has it. Anybody can see it that wants to look it up. Your physical address. This is the address that if it's not really yours, in fact, If it belongs to your cousin, your child, your friend, do not put that down here until you have been to the post office with them, gotten your business name added and their permission, because it's a little hard to get registered when you don't have their permission. So get that. Make sure this is all, and get the counties. Sometimes people are right on the edge, like this side of the street is one county, this side of the street is another county. Make sure you know the county that that is in. Your business phone number is a must. The business fax isn't required, but if you have one, put it down. Your business email. If you have already set up your URL, we probably can help you with that. If you don't have it, just put the one you have personally. But when you do set it up, you are required to go into the CCB portal that will, once you're set up, and put your current email. If you change your address down the road, you are also agreeing to keep the CCB current on your address. So if you move, you need to let them know. The first thing on B is what you would expect. Where this differs from everything you did in filing your business, that was all what your name is with the IRS on your ITIN. This is now what it says on your driver's license. So pull out your driver's license and make sure you've got the right document you're working with. Whatever it says here is what needs to go on here, exactly, with or without dashes, whatever it is. And I would like to interject at this point. If your Social Security information or your ITIN information does not match what your driver's license says, down the road at some point, you're going to have a problem. Make them match. Whatever is with the IRS is what should rule, and that's what should be. Get it corrected so it's right. All right.
I have
Please.
a question. If I have more than one name, like I use both of my mom's name, my dad's name, in my name, none of those is actually a legal middle name. They're all actually part of my last name.
Yes.
So do I just skip the middle name thing?
So the question was, what if I have, as some Hispanics and some folks in European cultures have two last names? The answer is one of the last names does not go in the middle name. If your name is Jose Juan Rodriguez Lopez, this is your first name, this is your middle name, this is your last name. It's very important that you put it on here. But again, remember I said your driver's license. What does it say on your driver's license? Some people don't even put their middle name, or they put their initial. Okay, you put it down. Some people only put one of their last names. Okay, so you put what your driver's license says. All right. Then you continue on putting in your date of birth. It must match your driver's license. If your driver's license is wrong, go get it fixed. Do not submit this application with the wrong date of birth. Your driver's license number needs to go in there, and please make sure that this is not going to expire in the next 60 days, because I don't want you to end up being on hold when the person sits down to process your application, only to find out the ID you've provided is now expired and they don't have the current one. They're not going to look for it. That's your job to provide it. So take a step, get it renewed now. Then the last 4 digits of your Social Security number or ITIN. Okay. Now, if there are more than one member or one partner in the business, then you put each successive partner or member on here. And you'll need all that information. A recommendation that we have is if they are not going to be accompanying you and you have partners or other members in your business, get a copy of their driver's license so when you go down to the CCB, if there's any question, you can respond to it right then, and there isn't another delay in your application processing. If there are more than 4 of you, they only provide enough for 4 people. Attach a separate sheet of paper and include all this information if there's 6 or 7 of you in the business. Just include it all, okay? Legible, accurate, make really sure you don't transpose information. It's all their driver's license or state-issued ID is what needs to match. Now, assume business names, that is not going to apply to you, and so I won't go into great detail on it. The reason, well, I'll tell you quickly. Assume business names, many times owners that are sole proprietors, it's not, you know, Diane Attorney, it's XYZ Construction, and that's my assume business name. That matters. I do not recommend assume business names because remember that LLC protection thing? Somewhere you're going to have to notify that person you have an LLC. If you haven't done that, did you protect yourself by using your assumed business name? No, because I did not represent myself on everything as an LLC. Some people say, you know, Spectrum Services, a division of XYZ Construction LLC would be an example. That's a mouthful. But I do not recommend this personally. It's a whole lot of problems. Okay, next page is real easy. You know the answers to it. Are you going to have workers' comp? In other words, do you have employees? And if you do, the answer is yes. If not, the answer is no. The next question is, if you have more than you in the business, then are 3 of them family members? So are 3 of them aunts, uncles, you know, are they your brothers, sisters? And if yes, then you need to list them on below.
Do you have 3 or more officers?
Your immediate
Or
family.
not all immediate. Why does it say?
And so they want to know, but it's really if you are. They want to know because they want to know if they are. If it's your cousin or someone, you're not going to have workers' compensation, but it's your brothers and your sister. They want to know. That's why you don't have workers' comp. They're going to come to the job site and say, I see 4 people working here, and you say they work for your company. And I want to know why you don't have workers' comp, because they're owners of the business. Okay, that's what they've told me every time I work with the CCB. And I know it's not worded very well, but anyway. If you checked yes on either of these boxes, then you have to. So if you do not have family members, that's when your question's coming in. I have to have workers' compensation if they're not members of the business, not owners of the business, they're employees. I'm going to have to get a workers' comp policy, and I have to show that right then. So what that means, I can't go turn my application in until I have a workers' comp policy. And I will have to pay for that before I go. And I have to attach a copy to show them. If you have employees, you must register with the BIN. And so we would help you do that, but that's telling the state of Oregon you have employees, and you're going to do withholding, and you're going to have state unemployment and all these different things, and workers' comp. You will have a federal ID number. When you register, you will have that. Okay. Then, family relationship identification. This is where if you have any of these folks working for you, that you're exempting.
So this is how you prove that they're all the appropriate members of your family.
Right.
They have to be
Right.
spouse, son, daughter, daughter-in-law, son-in-law, grandchildren, no cousins.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If this is an all-family member corporation, LLC, or trust, they can be exempt from workers' comp if you disclose them. Okay? So, this completes page 4. Going on to page 5, this is a happy thing. If you completed pages 3 and 4, you do not have to complete this. This is if you are an LLP or an LP. This is a very complex form of business. Doctors and lawyers, architects and others go into this. I do not recommend it for anyone that we're working with here going into the CCB. So, as we did before, I recommend that you go to this page and put the little thing down on page 5. So that's page 5, right? And page 6, same thing. See how they all look a lot alike, but people get lost and mixed up. So this way, you're not inadvertently filling out the wrong page and not getting what you want. All right. Here's the next section, and I recommend that you pick the very first one, residential general contractor. I understand if right now you do siding. You don't do roofing, you don't do painting, you don't do remodeling, you do roofing. But what happens down the road when you don't want to be a specialty contractor? You get to file again, pay another fee again. So check residential general contractor. Save yourself a headache. Now there are certain endorsements if you want to do these things. You need to disclose them. But see, these are licenses you have to have in order to be these contractors. Okay? But pick, there are like 360 residential special contractors, but I can only do roofing if I pick that. I can only do the one. I don't want to be a residential specialty contractor. I don't want to box myself in. I don't have a crystal ball. So why wouldn't I pick the bigger one? It does not have any major impact on insurance. I mean, we're talking a few dollars a year. Why would you not open up the door for more business, bigger things? So I recommend you start out by helping yourself and mark the first box. Okay, the next thing is, this gets down to those questions that we referenced a little earlier. These are the dividing line of whether you're going to get a license or not. If you have to check anything in one, you may not be licensed. They could say no. And so this says, do I have a final unpaid arbitration award from the CCB? So if I have a penalty that's unpaid or anything like that, I have to disclose it and mark that. You will know because you've been to court, you've gotten the documents, this is no surprise. If you have a final unpaid court judgment, the same thing. You're going to know, you have the court papers, you know all that, right? If you have an unpaid civil penalty anywhere in the U.S., not just Oregon. So if you did not pay construction bills in any other state, you still have to mark that because guess what? They're going to check on you. It's on your credit report. If you have a final unpaid court judgment or civil penalty from failing to have workers' comp or workers' comp insurance or awards you didn't pay, you have to mark that one. Again, you will know because you've been in court and you've been in a lot of trouble. And the next one is if you failed to pay employees their wages in construction. You have to mark that one. I am hoping that everyone is able to mark this one. If you have to mark any of these, remember on the very first page of the application, it has their phone number. Please call before you spend any more time on this, you spend any money, and make sure they'll probably work with you because I don't want to waste your time. All right. Here's the next section that is really unpleasant, but I'm glad that they do this, and this is partly why the CCB exists. Do you want the axe murderer in the home? Do you want your staff to work with the axe murderer? And if you think that people are honest, they're not. My current record is 12 felony convictions for someone who tried to apply, and they got a no. Again, if you have any of these, they're asking for information. And if you have to mark any of those, please call, because before you spend money, spend more time, you should know that it's going to be okay. If you are under supervision, because you did all that, and you're still on probation, that must be disclosed on the next page. And they do check these records. Again, remember that 30-day time that it takes them to fill everything out? They're checking, okay? Now, if that's not enough, you're coming down here and saying, everything I've told you so far is true. I'm the responsible managing individual, which most of you are. Here's my name. I know. Why is it I have to give them the same information again? Because you're being very specific. This isn't accidental. The state didn't pick it. You did. So if I'm the RMI, I'm responsible when the CCB pulls up to the job site to make sure I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to do, and I'm the one that will be held accountable. So put all your information again here. This has to be the same as what you put on the front if you're a co-owner. You don't get to pick different information by page. And are you an owner or employee of the business? Then this is where I write attached, number 5. Remember I said, please bring a copy or the original of your test score. This must be included with your application. And do not send your original because they don't give it back. Make a copy, sign it, and date it. And this is how your signature appears on your driver's license. They compare. Now we get to the next section where a lot of mistakes get made. First of all, see how there's a yes column and a no column? I have people that got turned down simply because they thought this was the yes column when they came over here, and they're marking no, 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 no. Pay attention to the column. So yes, I am the applicant, and I understand I'm free from client's direction and control. And they put more details in there, but bottom line, I'm the expert. I'm responsible for what I do. I don't ask my customer. I don't let them tell me the quality or what's safe. I'm the expert. I'm responsible for that. And I'm acknowledging that. There's no, oh, it's my customer's fault. All right, next. You understand you're going to be engaged in at least 3. But if you have to mark no on some of these, they're going to have questions for you. And so I mark yes, and then have you come down and put yes on each of these. You understand you're going to maintain a business location separate from your customers. Well, I would think so. You can't be co-housed or co-located with your customers. How are you separate? So sure, you drop things off at a job site, but you're separate. There are very few exceptions to that. Some commercial contractors, you work on a big job and the stuff goes at their shop, but that's rare. The next one, very important. You understand you bear the risk of loss. This is a business. There are no guarantees. If you don't run it right, you're acknowledging I'm responsible for this, keeping my bonds and my insurance in place. And I'm agreeing to that. The next one, I'm responsible for providing contract services to 2 or more different persons within a 12-month period. This is the state standard. The IRS standard is 4. To be considered an independent contractor, I have to work for at least 4 individuals or businesses in the course of a year. Sometimes they will give you an exception the first year because you're just starting out, but you know, will you be in business if you only work for 2 people? Probably not. This is intended to say, I don't just work for one company, because then I'm an employee, right? That's really what that's about. The next one, you know this better than all of us. You're going to be making a significant investment in the business. You're going to buy equipment and tools. You're going to pay money for all sorts of things. You're acknowledging that. The final one is, I have the authority to hire other people. And in so doing, I'm going to make sure that I pay those people and I classify them correctly and I keep workers' comp and I withhold taxes and I do my job as an employer. And I'm agreeing. The next 3 and 4, again, make sure you're in the right column. You agree to maintain an active license with the CCB. So you're not working out there with an expired license. So once you do get the license from the CCB, it lasts 2 years. Please do not apply the night before, even if you have all the training and everything else. It takes them time. I'm recommending anywhere from 6 weeks to 2 months before your application, your CCB license expires. Get in there, fill out the paperwork, get everything to them, give them plenty of time. I don't want you to be on a job and have to quit just because you don't have your renewal. The final one is, you understand that there could be specialty licenses you have to get. If I'm a plumber, I do HVAC, I do some welding, I'm an electrician. Those are additional licenses with additional fees. They are not covered under this, and I know that. So I will go get them. It doesn't mean I can't hire a licensed electrician or one of those trades. It just means I won't do the work. I will have the proper person do it if I'm not licensed. All right, the final thing is you get to sign again. So first of all, you're reading through all of this to make sure, A, everything is true and correct. When it's effective, so as of the day I sign this, if I don't have employees, I don't have employees, and I'm telling the truth. The RMI will have to sign on this page and date it, and you will operate as an independent contractor, and you will make sure that you share this information as needed with other governmental agencies. If you fail to remain compliant, this $5,000 is no joke. The CCB does penalties, and you will pay it, and they'll suspend it till you do and become compliant. The last two are very easy to understand. I am not going to be an RMI of another licensed applicant. So how do they know which company you're working under, right? You get to pick one. All right, and because whenever they have to pull a license, they pull the whole license. You don't get to apply your license on this company and this company. It's good for one. And you're agreeing that I am an RMI and I'm an owner of the business. So if I'm the RMI and I'm a sole member LLC, I skip this line and I come down here because this says LLC. And if there are more of me as members or owners or partners, I just keep on going, attach another page if necessary. Okay. Now we're on to the big thing. We get to pay, right? A lot of people rush right in and fill this out. Please don't fill it out until you're ready to go, because the payment information could change. And frankly, I don't want to give my information out there if this should ever get lost. So wait till you're almost ready to go. I recommend this one, check or money order. And I do recommend a cashier's check. The reason, what if your credit card is over its limit, or debit card, and it takes them 6 weeks to process this? I don't want you to get turned down and go into the pile because it didn't clear. The next thing is just make sure. So a cashier's check avoids all this because it's available from the bank, and the bank will reissue the check should it be lost. It's kind of hard to get money orders and other things reissued. I know they say 7 to 10 days for processing. I'm sorry they haven't updated this. It's 30 days. I've talked to them a number of times, and it's 30 days. So that's the truth. All right, we went through this briefly. I would like you, if you are a residential and small commercial, to highlight this section because that's what you're allowed to do. I want to be sure that's clear in everybody's mind, and you just highlight it. That's what I'm doing in this business. That's my litmus test. That's what I put on my goal sheet. That's what I can do right now if I'm residential. Coming on down, this is what I'm going to do for insurance. And when you're going to shop for insurance, these are the limits. $20,000 residential bond, $500,000 per occurrence in aggregate for you to have insurance. I know these others are less, and that's why some people jump into these. But you're not going to work for apartment buildings or others, landlords, if you have the lower insurance. I'm telling you, you're not. They're going to require the higher limits. If you work for bigger companies, they may require even higher limits. So when it comes to shopping for insurance, right at the close of today, I have a little form to help you keep track of all that information, because there's a lot. So let's go through the last little bit of the application and pause, because I'm sure there will be some questions. And so here's the start of the certificate of insurance. I understand these limits are higher than what you're required. Remember I said 500,000? So these would have 500,000 in them, but this is what the state provides in their application. So I'm going to be sure you know that. The first thing is, I've had it where the insurance agent forgets to put in the date. Highlight that so that you're looking for that on your certificate, so you don't end up down there having taken a day off only to find your insurance certificate isn't ready to go. Highlight that. The next section to highlight is the name of your business. Make sure it is exact. They didn't misspell, leave off part of the name. make sure it's exact. If this doesn't match everything else on your application, they'll put it aside. The next section is actually your limits of coverage, and these will be marked, guaranteed. Okay. The final sections to watch, and this is imperative, right here you must have the certificate holder. The Oregon Construction Contractor Board, if you fail to perform or cause a problem, they are going to go against you, and this allows them by putting their name there. It must appear exactly as it shows here. It can't say Oregon CCB. It must say Oregon Construction Contractors Board at that address. Next thing it must say is it must have days, and most of them are 30 days right here. And it must be signed, even if it's an electronic signature. And I would like to cover a little misunderstanding that some people have. By law, an electronic signature is acceptable. I've had some people go down to the Oregon CCB, and just like others who don't know everything, they said, I don't see a signature. That looks like a machine signature. That is valid. It's an electronic signature. So you can remind them that an electronic signature, have your insurance agent talk to them. That is legitimate and legal.
Right there on the form.
Okay, their form, oh, by the way. So, yeah. Another reason to take your copy. Okay. Finally, so let's back up for one moment. Insurance. General liability insurance, there are various components to it. General liability is, what am I doing wrong? There we go. General liability says, gosh, I had a piece of siding in my hand. I'm walking across toward the side of the back of the house, and I inadvertently turn sideways, break the window into the garage, and it messes up their fancy old car that's an antique. The window needs replaced, the car needs painted, it's a mess. Well, that I didn't mean to. It was an accident. General liability. That's what's covered. If that same piece of siding starts to buckle in 6 months, that's product liability. That's not my fault. I installed it like I was supposed to, and it's defective. So that's product liability. Personal liability, this is not you. Don't think you have insurance or your employees have insurance. This just means if I cause an injury. And again, that will be the limits that they have. Fire damage, some people leave that blank. What happens if your customer's home or office burns and all the supplies are in it and your tools? You have no coverage if there's nothing in there. Not required by the CCB. You might be surprised it doesn't cost very much for that coverage. The next one, a lot of people leave blank also. What happens when that nice homeowner has their 8 and 10-year-old out there playing on that siding and they fall off and they break their arm, one of them? You want medical insurance because accidents will happen to third parties, you know. So protect yourself. It's a few dollars, and it's a good, wise decision. All right, now on to the surety bond. So how does a surety bond differ from GL or general liability? A surety bond is performance. In other words, I agree I am going to come and I'm going to put the roof on your house. And then I only halfway do it and I leave. I failed to complete the job. This surety bond says I'm going to go out and I'm going to they can get a contractor to finish it. And the bond will pay it, and then the bonding company is going to come after you to pay what they had to pay. That will be construction debt against you, which is then reported to the CCB, which will cause your license to be suspended. You always want to figure things out. I had one contractor that fell off their roof, actually, not to pick on roofers, and he couldn't go out and finish the job he was on. And it got him crosswise, and the CCB maintained that he should have had a backup because the fact that he fell off didn't mean that he was absolved from his responsibility to finish the roof. And so he needed to have some backup people to come in and finish it for him. So back to your dare to dream, how am I going to manage the risks of my business as I do this? So in the surety bond, they're going to ask the name of your company exact. It must be $20,000. The surety bond is going to put their company in here, and it must be $20,000 for residential there. What happens when I start working on a $50,000 residential remodel? I committed to keeping my insurance and my bonding in the appropriate amounts earlier. And you are required to raise this. The CCB isn't going to follow you around and make sure you're doing that. That's your job. You're the business owner. You just don't want them to come out to the site and say, oh, this is a $50,000 remodel and you only have a $20,000 bond. Well, I guess you'll be coming back after you get a change in your bond. And here's a citation. So avoid that problem, okay? Make sure, again, it's signed. I'm sure most of them will be machine signatures as well. And you're good to go. So this completes what you have to have. When you turn this application in, you must have a completed application. You must have a copy of your test score. You must have the original insurance certificate. You must have the original surety bond. And if you have workers' compensation, you have to have the original of workers' compensation, a certificate proving you have coverage. Plus, remember payment? You never get things for free exactly, other than our coaching, right? And so you must have, hopefully you'll get a cashier's check to include with this. It's all legible, it's signed, double check it, and you'll make your time worthwhile, and you'll get in and out. This form stops a lot of people from going into business because they don't complete it, they don't include all the attachments. And so while today has been a day of paperwork and reviewing a lot of information, our intent is to make sure that you succeed in the things that you do. I don't know if there are any questions so far on the application, but we can pause and allow your facilitator to help you with questions that you do have. Thank you so much. All right, let's finish off this class, and thank you for all of your patience and your time today. Shopping for insurance. It's going to be one of the vital things that you do after you leave our class today. And so how do you shop for an insurance agent? You may know of agents that you have. Well, let me give you some shortcuts in that process. We all shop for different services and providers in our personal lives. I want you to use the same kind of measuring stick. But here's some of the questions you might want to ask an insurance broker or an insurance agent. Do you do lots of construction contractor work? And if they say yes, I want you to ask, so what does that look like? 10, 15 a week? If they say no, we do 6 or 8 a year, I would suggest you keep shopping. Not to say bad things about that insurance agent. They're probably good. They just don't have the level of experience. And so you want somebody that does this by the dozens every month because they're really good at it. So the next thing is you can put in a search engine, insurance contractors or insurance agencies, insurance brokers near me on your phone, and you'll find a number of them. And you can start shopping by phone. So I'm not advocating that you run out, have a meeting with all these insurance. Select them first, interview them, and then narrow the field. Then the next thing, they're going to have some paperwork you need to fill out. You're going to have to provide your name, your federal tax ID number for your business, or the fact that you're in the process of applying for it. And they're going to want to know the levels of coverage that you're looking for. If you're residential and small commercial, this first column, that's you. That's what you have to have. If you're commercial, this is what you have to have at a minimum. And if you're residential and commercial, level 1, this, and then that's level 2 on the far end. So this is intended to give you a quick cheat sheet of what you're looking for. I want you to select the column that applies to you, and that's what you're looking for in limits. Then I want you to come down, and only you know if you have employees. So if you do, then that's going to be included. Let me give you a suggestion on shopping for payroll. So many of you are optimistic, and you run in and say, yeah, I'm going to have $200,000 of payroll. You're just starting out. Please be realistic. Is it 50,000? Come up with a more conservative number. because you're going to have a whopping bill. A client I had just did that, and he got a $22,000 bill from SAFE that he is no way going to do that amount of business in a year and pay that much to employees. It's not going to happen. So he's going to have to pay and wait on the backside to get refunded. $20,000 is a lot to pay, even if you divide it up over 12 months. That's a lot of money. So think about it. Here's a better choice. Be conservative. 20 to 50,000. You know how much you're going to involve people, and then if you find that business is going great, you can always pay them extra along the way as you find you have more. And oh, by the way, there is no shortchanging the insurance company. They do an audit at the end of every year, and they will get paid the difference. So be sure, and it isn't just SAFE, it's the Hartford, it's Liberty Mutual, it's whoever you choose to go with. The insurance audit is part of the process. The next thing is a vehicle. Only you know if a vehicle is in the business. The CCB will issue you an application, and they'll take your application even if you don't have vehicle insurance. That does not mean that the CCB is giving you a green card saying, oh, you don't have to have vehicle insurance. They fully expect you to have vehicle insurance in driving a vehicle, whether rented or owned. And so if you own it personally and you have personal insurance, this is a key lesson, and it could save you literally tens of thousands, if not more. If you own the vehicle or you rent the vehicle and you have personal coverage on it because all this time you've been an employee and you go to church and the grocery store and you go out to whatever you do with your kids or your family, that's a personal use. When you told them, I'm using it for personal use or to drive back and forth to work, that doesn't apply when you drive back and forth to a business you own. The only way to have coverage is to ask for a commercial liability rider. And that commercial liability rider is your formal notification to your private insurance carrier, I'm using this vehicle in business. And they'll charge you, it's a couple $300 in most policies a year, but that way you're covered. And this is a sobering example, true story. Contractor had two $10,000 each custom doors in the back of his vehicle. A dump truck driver wasn't able to stop quick enough on the road, smashed into him, two very expensive doors strewn across the interstate, splintered, ruined, and come to find out he had no coverage because he did not have a commercial liability rider. And the dump truck only had $25,000 of the minimum insurance, and his medical bills were $150,000. Do you think that individual is still in business today, aside from his injuries? I'm just talking from a financial standpoint, no. And so don't let this be you. There's nothing wrong with using your personal vehicle, your truck, your van, your car to start with. Insure it properly. Don't take shortcuts. The next thing is, if you plan on driving people in your personal vehicle or your business vehicle, this means I take crews to work with me in the cab of my truck or my van. You don't have coverage for your passengers unless you have a passenger endorsement, whether it's commercial or a personal vehicle. And so you want to make sure that the passengers are covered. You, again, don't want to find out that that great coworker you have has been severely injured and you have no coverage. They're going to sue you personally. So avoid the mistakes that I see happen every single month in our center when people come in and we try and help them with issues that they face. Now you see why not every business makes it. This goes back to integrity. I don't take shortcuts. And usually in this class, I write that up on the board multiple times and wait till you get to record keeping. I make sure there are no shortcuts, but you enjoy it. You have fun. This is a business. This is a long-term venture. You're not entering into this to work 30 or 40 hours a week. You're probably going to work 50, 60, 70 hours a week. You're going to earn your business. And I want you to not lose it due to risks that you could have covered and you didn't. Insurance is one of those ways to protect yourself. And so I'm not an advocate. I don't get any money from insurance companies for telling you these things. I'm just trying to help you from the things I've seen. So as you come down on this nice little form, quote number 1. So whatever you are up above, the first insurance company I talked to or broker, I put down and I put the information in. Isn't it hard to keep track of all of the different quotes and things you got? This is the minimum. And don't be afraid to ask, so what if I went with a $500 deductible or a $1,000 deductible or $2,500? A deductible means up to that amount, the first 500,000 or 2,500, I'm responsible for paying it if there's a claim. It could significantly reduce your insurance. It never hurts to ask. You walk in with the information. I recommend you get 4 quotes and you document who it's from because you might want to go back and get them in writing ultimately because you want to be sure you have the written documentation you think you have. Now, I recommend you consider higher limits. So what if you went not 500,000 of insurance, but maybe you decided to go with $1 million or $2 million because you're going to work on an apartment complex, or the landlord or the small company you're going to go in and remodel things says it has to be $2 million. Well, find out up front. You might find it's just a few more dollars now, and it would save you a lot of time and expense down the road. If it's only another $10 or $15 a month, why wouldn't you? And it allows you to work with more companies. So don't edit yourself out on jobs just because of insurance. It can be avoidable. So we mentioned earlier when we looked at the insurance certificate, the personal injury. So you definitely, this is not you, not your employees, but what protection levels do they provide and how much does it cost? Fire, we said it's not covered unless you have that protection. And medical expenses are the same way. If that child fell off of the stuff you had stored over in the corner, it's still your fault because they wouldn't have been hurt if your materials had not been stored there. Get at least 5,000. You want something to help protect your business. Employee dishonesty is the final coverage that I urge people to get, and not because I think you have dishonest employees. Again, it's a few dollars a month. On my policy, it was $5 a month. But what it does is it provides protection for you. So many times you will be in homes and offices, and what if something comes up missing? You didn't take it. You know you were honest. Your employees didn't take it. How helpful is it to have a legal defense to defend you and your staff or your subcontractors from things that you know they didn't take? It brings in the attorneys, and it goes very differently. One young lady cleaned apartments for a living, and a necklace came up missing, a very expensive necklace. And the apartment person said, I know you stole it. And she's been doing this for years, and I believe she was very honest when she told me she did not do it. And so the attorney came and said, so tell us, why do you believe she took it? Well, she came in the morning, and that evening I couldn't find it, and so she was the only person here. I know she had to take it. And the lady said, all I did was clean the bathroom and make the bed. Well, come to find out, the attorney asked the little girls, do you ever go in Mommy's room and play? Oh yeah. Mommy had a really pretty necklace, didn't she? And the girls admitted, yes, they did. Mom was coming up the stairs, and they didn't want to get caught playing with Mommy's pretty jewelry. And they threw it behind the dresser to keep from getting caught. It wasn't stolen. That was a $5,500 necklace. And that kept that person out of court, out of criminal proceedings, and a whole lot of things due to the fact you had somebody to defend you. And I would want that for you and your employees. So please think about that. The surety bond, we've had the discussion about that. You have to do it. And then I want you to look, what is the frequency? So many of you go and find out what these prices are, and you think I have to pay the whole years up front. They're not paying from now till the end of the year. The quote they're giving you is for a 12-month period. And so ask, is there a chance I could pay a couple months down and then make payments over the next 4 months, 6 months? Some of them will literally break it up in months. And that's a question you need to ask as part of your insurance shopping. What is best for me? The final thing that I urge you to look about, and it's been a very painful lesson for me personally, PIP, or Personal Injury Protection. The state of Oregon requires $15,000. You have that on your vehicle. You have it on your commercial coverage. It's next to nothing on your policy, and we're all thankful that we have it. If you get in an accident, do you think you get out of most emergency rooms for $15,000? So after that happened to me, and I got hit at a little over 40 miles an hour by the first vehicle, and the second one at 25, and I'm going through everything, I asked my agent, so is there a higher limit? Should I have asked for that? They said, oh yeah, there's a higher limit. I'm like, well, I have higher on everything else. Why didn't we have that? Well, it's another $2 a month to go to $50,000. I'm like, really? $2 a month? I have $150,000 in bills, and I could have $2 a month? I said, well, while we're at it, $100,000 is as far as they went. And I said, so what's that? Oh, it's $4 a month. They don't tell you this, and I'm telling you this because it's a protection for the people in your vehicle, and it is one of the risks to help protect you. I understand you may not be able to afford workers' compensation to start, but you spend so much time on the road doing quotes, getting materials, and actually going to do the work. And to know that you have some coverage out there to take care of you and your employees should something happen is really important to me. So I think this is part of what you do. Be a smart shopper. I'm not asking you to get coverage you don't need. I'm asking you to get coverage that will make sure your business stays in. And at the very beginning, we started asking, would you like to be part of the 9 out of 10, or do you want to be the 1 out of 10? We're giving you the clues in this class, how to be in the 90%, how to make it, write it down, contemplate your risks, have the right insurance, fill out the form. Let the SBDC help you fill out and register you online so you don't check the wrong box and you get penalty notices. Let us help you. It's what we do, and we thoroughly enjoy working with customers. And we're here and we're positioned to help you at all stages of your business, whether it's startup, at an intermediate level, or at an advanced level. And I would close with something that, since this comes out each time, it's just in your packet. But it's an invitation to come to our class, which includes record keeping and estimating. And so we'd like to make sure you get off on the right foot. So even if you went and turned in your application today to the SBDC, you're looking at a month, best case, before your number is going to be active. They're going to give you a number. It's just not active yet. And if they're able to approve you, why not take this time and use it to get record keeping and estimating under your belt and do it the right way? To know you're not leaving money on the table, you're positioning your business to be here long term, and you're asking a fair price. And we teach that in those classes. And the final classes that we are starting in the fall is also a class to help a small business management series that we help you go through specifics. It's a commitment of 3 hours once per month to help our construction contractors really navigate the nitty-gritty details of what they face every day now that they're in business. And so we are positioned to continue to help you. Again, your yellow form has been completed, and thank you for taking that time so we can help you. I know this has been a tremendous commitment of your time. I close by telling you, I'm an accountant, right? And I help people go into business all the time. How much do you think I charge when I set up a private client in their business? It's $2,500 when I work with them in my private practice. Today, you got a $2,500 session at no cost and a promise of free counseling to help you set up your business. I think it was worth your time, and I really appreciate your attention. I look forward to working with you, as do the other SBDCs. Thank you.